The time being 5 p.m. on Wednesday, March 17th, 2021. I will call to order the regular meeting of the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board. And note that we are still socially distancing for our meetings to minimize the risk of exposure to or potential spread of COVID-19. The board has added options for comments to be submitted for its public meetings and hearings virtually. Most commissioners will call in, and the meeting will be viewable via live webcast and TV options. The video is also posted on the website, usually 2 days after the meeting. With that, I'll ask the secretary to please call the meeting to order and take the roll.
Commissioner Bourne. Commissioner Musich.
Present.
Commissioner Hassan.
Present.
Commissioner Severson.
Present.
Commissioner Meyer.
Present.
Commissioner Meyer.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner French.
Here.
Commissioner Forney.
Here.
Vice President Vita.
Present.
President Cogill.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. I'll ask now for a motion to approve the regular meeting agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? See no hands raised. I'll ask the secretary to please take the roll on approving the agenda.
Commissioner Bourne. Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan.
Aye.
Commissioner Severson.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Commissioner Forney.
Aye.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
President Cogill.
Aye.
You have 8 ayes, 1 absent.
That carries. I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes from Wednesday, January the 6th of 2021, as well as Wednesday, March the 3rd of 2021.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. The stars are aligning. And I will ask if there's any discussion. Any? I'll ask the secretary to please take the roll.
Commissioner Bourne. Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan.
Aye.
Commissioner Severson.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Commissioner Forney.
Aye.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
President Cogill.
Aye.
You have 8 ayes, 1 absent.
That carries. We'll now move into reports of officers. And I'll just kick it off with a brief update before we move into the superintendent's report pertaining to recent discussions on the bell and wheel that are currently being housed at the school in Minnetonka. The vice president and I and the superintendent had a great conversation with Mr. Dick Ward of the Legion locally, who has been a amazing protector of those 2 items, and the superintendent will be meeting with Mr. Ward tomorrow to work on next steps to bring the two items back to Bede-Makaska and restore that location as the home of those items. And we want to thank Mr. Ward in collaboration with Minnetonka Schools to be moving forward in a collaborative fashion on that. So I just wanted to highlight that effort and thank all involved for their work in collaborating on a discussion around that and moving us forward in the right direction. With that, I'll ask the superintendent to provide us with his report.
Thank you, President Cogill and commissioners. Welcome, and it's good to see everybody tonight. I'm going to start off with ice arenas. Parade Ice Garden hosted its district playoffs last weekend, and the youth hockey season is winding down. Northeast Ice Arena is removing ice and adding the turf for the summer. Thank you to the arena staff for their hard work this winter, working through COVID protocols and providing a safe environment for our staff and patrons. So thank you for your work. Aquatics is busy promoting summer employment opportunities and winter spring lifeguard classes. This past weekend, Aquatics hosted a review lifeguard course for currently certified lifeguards. The class of 14 trained and refreshed their skills on submersible mannequins to further enhance their contact-free standards put forth by the American Red Cross. Adult athletics. 501 teams are currently registered in the Adult Sports League this spring, including basketball, softball, kickball, sand volleyball, soccer, tennis, and indoor broomball. That's pretty impressive. 501 teams. Amazing. Golf. The golf season kicked off on Saturday, March 13th, with the opening of the driving range at Columbia Golf Course. Columbia did record business on Saturday, and we are looking forward to the opening of golf course this week. It's great to hear, and it's good to see these folks out here enjoying our beautiful golf courses. So thank you for that. Youth sports. Youth summer youth sports registration will open in ActiveNet on Wednesday, March 24th for baseball, softball, and track. Youth basketball has 2 weeks left in the season. We have played about 200 games so far this season with no exposure to COVID. Incredible. Kids, parents, and staff have done a great job during this difficult year. And again, I'd like to say thank you to our incredible staff, parents, and kids who really took us seriously in the precautions around COVID. Well done. Youth hockey concluded last week with a great season. Kids were able to experience indoor and outdoor ice, which is what Minnesota is all about. Winter Fun on the Run. Winter Fun on the Run concluded last week. The last week of the program was more like fun in the mud with the warm temperatures and no snow. Over 120 kids participated in the program. Congratulations, that's just phenomenal. So wonderful work by our staff and this creative Winter Fun on the Run program. Great job. Rec Plus. McRae Rec Plus had a very exciting and fun Friday night dance party for youth as ages 6 to 12. 10 youth enjoyed the event. It'd been great to have a video to show this, but I'm sure they were amazing. Northeast and Southeast service area. Wyndham Northeast was a newly opened site for Rec Plus. All 9 spots are filled for the summer, but there are 19 available for the school year. So congratulations on that. North service area, North Commons Park. Youthline collaborated with Dion Sims to have a book donation. Dion, the founder of the Twin Cities bookstore, Black Garnett Books, wanted to give youth free books during their Black History Month. It was a great opportunity and something that our youth loved. Thank you so much for that and your generosity to help our kids to read and to get some wonderful books about Black history. So thank you to Dion Sims. Let's see here. I think it says here to turn over to Tyrese, but we'll do it at the end. All right, next. Upper South Service Area. Phillips Community Center. Technology and Me is a weekly STEM program with youth have an opportunity to learn coding and create their own computer games. During the weeks learning to code, youth did hands-on activities to learn how to code and brainstorm creative game ideas to create online. Southwest Service Area. Youthline Archery and Whittier at Whittier takes place Thursdays from 4:30 to 5:30. Youth can earn prizes by adding points for their shooting scores, wearing a mask, following safety rules, and following park rules. Lower South Service Area. Powderhorn Park participated in their weekly Kahoot trivia game. Families requested a Harry Potter theme. All family teams had a great time and did an amazing job answering the questions. We have gotten such good feedback on the program that we're extending it for a few more weeks. That's really cool. This next video that we're going to show you is an example of the exciting work that is happening at the Powderhorn Creation Space. The facilitators of the program asked this young lady to hum a few bars as a background music for the commercial, and this is what she came up with instead. Keep in mind, she had about 15 minutes to prepare and had never been to the studio before.
It's your life, just live it how you will it, be committed. Then in time, if you see it, you'll achieve it, you believe it. Get up and go, get up and go, get up and go. It's your road, it's your road. You decide, you decide, you decide. It's your life, it's your life. It's your life, just live it how you will it, be committed. Then in time you'll decide what's right. It's your life. Get up and go, get up and go, get up and go.
So that's an example. It's just absolutely amazing. Really proud. Forestry. Forestry Department staff spent the recent, sorry, it just means a lot to me. My apology. Forestry Department staff spent a recent Saturday performing tree work at Johnson Street Northeast. Because this street is heavily traveled on weekdays, it is less disruptive to do the work on a weekend. By closing the street to traffic, our crews can work safely and be more productive. On this day, a total of 75 trees were pruned and 7 were removed. Great work on that, and thank you to our forestry crew. That's just amazing. So thank you for that. Environmental management. Conservation Corps of Minnesota and Iowa's Youth Outdoors program begins in April. One conservation crew of Minnesota and Iowa's Youth Outdoors crew will start work with environmental management natural resources on April 5th. The crew will begin their season at Theodore Wirth Park, cutting buckthorn. They will also be working with youth ages 15 to 18 on conservation-based education and service projects during the spring school term, which begin on April 15th. The youth education program will be influenced by COVID-19 restrictions. At present, we are planning that the youth will work in Minneapolis Park. Work areas will be determined by access to public transportation. Conservation Corps will have a truck and van on site for emergency transportation only. A second crew is anticipated to start work in early June. Very excited about that, and it's going to be great to see the work being done by this amazing group. So look forward to this. And what you see below is the 2020 CCMI crew working at Wirth Park. Asset management, maintenance and operation. Thank you to our paint shop team for a great job removing graffiti from 5 MPRB vehicles that were vandalized at the Southside Operations Center this weekend of March 6th. The MPRB mobile equipment operator and equipment shop staff received training on the operations and maintenance of the new, well, first of all, let me just say, I appreciate tremendous work that the staff did to remove the graffiti on the vehicles quickly. And it was unfortunate, and I just want to say thank you for their quick response, not only to those 5 vehicles, but also Lindell Farmstead, which was tagged. So thank you for that work and for removing it quickly. So thank you. The MPRB mobile equipment operators and equipment shop staff received training on the operations and maintenance of the new Timco street sweeper. The mild March weather is allowing the street sweeper to get out earlier than in years past. The street sweeper cleans parking lots and trails, removing salt, sand, and other debris to aid in stormwater pollution protection. So it's great to see that, and very proud of that we have that equipment now to do the work that's necessary to keep our parks clean and in good condition. Horticulture. Congratulations to gardener Andrew Galboy, pictured at the Rose Garden below, who completed his certification to become a master rosarian at the beginning of March. I never knew that word existed, but it's pretty cool. So congratulations to Andrew. Phenomenal. Really excited for the beautiful Rose Garden and the work you do every day. It's just, it's amazing. So thank you. Bedema-Cosca Refectory Rebuild. Last week, staff released the draft vision, guiding principles, and concept for the Bedema-Cosca Refectory Rebuild project. These documents are on the project page along with the public survey that will open through April 1st. This project looks to rebuild the refectory building lost to the fire in 2019 and to make improvements to the site that will serve park visitors for many years to come. New Bedema-Cosca Pavilion site concepts. The new Bedema-Cosca Harriet Master Plan, approved in 2017, provided guidance for the pavilion site improvements. The concepts were designed by a team led by Cunningham after working with MPRB staff and numerous stakeholders over the past several months. After the public feedback period closes, MPRB staff will compile responses and present a single concept to MPRB commissioners this summer that will be adjusted to reflect a proposed budget. The concept published today do not have a specific cost estimate. Potential funding sources include insurance compensation, regional park improvement funding, and additional options being explored by MPRB staff. The concept and project funding requires board approval. Construction is expected in 2022, with concessions resuming for the 2023 season. And with that, I want to turn back to a section that I moved past for Tyrese to give a quick update on our spring programs. So with that, I'll turn this over to Assistant Superintendent Cox.
Thank you, Superintendent. Good evening, Commissioners. I just wanted to point out a flyer that you will see floating around. It's School's Out for Spring Break, and we're thinking of it as kind of a snapshot or a spring break at a glance. It will list all of the it would highlight some of the programs that are happening in particular service areas, or in each service area, I should say. It is not meant to be an exhaustive list, but really give a kind of highlight of what's happening. So we should be able to find these on our website on Monday and in rec centers for young people to take home to their families. And that's kind of the thing I wanted to highlight about that.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Cox. And the last thing I'll say is I'm excited about the Powderhorn creation space. We have 3 more coming online. If that gives you an indicator of what the possibilities are, I hope that you felt something. And I'm very excited about the future and having these 4 places around our city to engage our youth in arts and music, design, technology, and very proud. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent, for the report. Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Cox. And I'll ask if commissioners have questions. Vice President Vita.
Thank you, President Cogill. Thank you, Superintendent, for the report. I really appreciate that. Assistant Superintendent Cox, are we going to have South Side flyers as well, or is this just something we'll have for Northside?
Commissioner Vitaw, Vice President Vitaw, there will be a flyer for each of the service areas.
Okay. And they'll be posted on the social media pages, I'm assuming the Park Board social media pages.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President. Are there any other questions from commissioners for the superintendent? Not seeing any. Moving on with the agenda. We have about 10 minutes before open time, so I'll go into consent and ask for a motion on resolutions 2021-153 through resolution 2021-156. Do I have
So moved.
Second.
a motion and a second? Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion?
Was there intent not to do 153? I believe there was a 153.
Did I?
Yeah.
I will.
You did not include.
My apologies. I'll clarify that we are moving resolutions 153 through 156. And if there's no objection, that will be the motion that was provided. Seeing if there's any objection, I'll ask the secretary to please take the roll on the consent agenda.
Commissioner Severson.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer. Commissioner Hassan.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Commissioner Forney.
Aye.
Commissioner Bourne.
Aye.
Vice President, thank you. Vice President Vitaw.
Aye.
President Cogill.
Aye.
You have 9 ayes.
The consent agenda carries. Moving on to reports of standing committees. I'll turn it over to Chair Forney.
On behalf of the Administration and Finance Committee, I'd like to move Resolution 2021-148, resolution approving the acceptance of additional fundraising by the Friends of Thomas Lowry Park intended to further support park improvements associated with Seven Pools Rehabilitation Project, a feature of Thomas Lowry Park, a part of the Minneapolis Park System.
The resolution has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Resolution has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on resolution 2021-148? Any discussion? Any discussion? We'll thank the Friends of Thomas Lowry Park for their additional work on this, and I'll ask the secretary to take the roll.
Commissioner Severson.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Commissioner Bourne.
Aye.
Vice President Vitaw.
Aye.
President Cogill.
Aye.
And I'll
You have
also
9
vote,
ayes.
I'll also vote aye.
Let it know.
My apologies.
That's
Commissioner
okay.
Forney.
Aye. Aye.
That carries with 9 ayes. Moving on, Chair Forney.
Yes, I'd like to move Resolution 2021-149, a resolution authorizing the superintendent to submit a 2022 proposal to the Legislative Citizen Commission on Minnesota Resources, LCCMR, from the Environmental and Natural Resources Trust Fund, ENRTF, for 5 projects.
The resolution has been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
The resolution has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Is there any discussion on resolution 2021-149? Seeing none, I'll ask the secretary to please take the roll.
Commissioner Severson.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer. Commissioner Hassan.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Commissioner Forney.
Aye.
Commissioner Bourne.
Aye.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
President Cogill.
Aye.
You have 9 ayes.
That carries. Let's see here. We'll just keep going here. We have a few more minutes before open time. I'll turn it over to Mayor Meyer of the Planning Committee.
On behalf of Planning Committee, I move Resolution 2021-150, a resolution approving the concept plan for Marcy Park site improvements, Phase 1.
Second.
The resolution has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the concept plan? Any discussion? Any discussion? I'm not seeing any discussion, so I will ask the secretary to please take the roll on resolution 2021-150.
Commissioner Severson.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Commissioner Forney.
Aye.
Commissioner Bourne.
Aye.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
President Cogill.
Aye.
You have 9 ayes.
That carries. Mayor Meyer.
I move Resolution 2021-151, a resolution approving temporary occupancy under Section 4F of the Transportation Act of 1966 for the Queen Avenue Bicycle Boulevard, portions of which are within Cleveland Park and Willard Park.
Second.
Resolution has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on this resolution? Is there any discussion, commissioners? Any discussion? I'm not seeing any. I'll ask the secretary to.
Can I get a little bit more information on this? I'm trying to connect this with the project that's going to go down 16th Avenue. Is this the same project that would connect these?
Thank you, Commissioner Severson. I believe I'll ask either Director Arvidsson or Assistant Superintendent Schroeder to answer that question.
Thank you, President Cogill, Commissioner Severson. I'd be happy to answer the question. I want to clarify really quickly. I'm not familiar with the 16th Avenue project. This project runs on Queen Avenue in a north-south direction, and it passes kind of through the middle of both Willard and Cleveland parks, essentially on existing trails and sidewalks that are in those parks today, which will be upgraded as a part of this project. But I apologize, I'm not familiar with the 16th Avenue. Oh, you know what? I think I might know. Is this the one that's runs south of North Commons Park that the city is planning?
Yes.
Commissioner Severson, President Cogill, this project, the resolution before you regarding the Queen Avenue Bicycle Boulevard is not related to the 16th Avenue project.
All right, and this is just temporary, correct?
Commissioner Severson, President Cogill, the authorization before you is to allow a temporary use to construct certain improvements in these parks that are necessary to link the Queen Avenue Bicycle Boulevard. After construction, the land would then remain fully owned by the park board. We would continue to maintain these walkways in the parks as we do today.
Do we have any concerns about how fast bicycles go and how close they will be to the swimming pool, the athletic field, or the playground equipment?
Commissioner Severson, President Cogill, the bicyclists will be moving from the on-road facility at the north and south ends of both of these parks and being forced to make kind of some rapid turns as they enter the parks and also surmount kind of a pedestrian ramp. So we believe that will slow them down as well as will the other amenities that are kind of in the park in their close proximity. I think staff feels and felt during the North Service Area Master Plan that actually having more activity in these parks, even if it's a pass-through activity, is a positive development for the parks. It helps activate them and create more of a sense of use and safety.
I just have valid concerns about how fast bicycles are traveling through our parks, particularly where there's small children playing, particularly Willard being such a small park and Cleveland also being such a small park that I don't think that I can support this this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Severson. Is there any other discussion on this item? Any other discussion? Not seeing any.
Yeah, I'm trying to raise my hand here, President Court.
Certainly, Commissioner Bourne, I recognize you.
Thank you, President Cogill. Council, can you talk about just the vote threshold needed on this? This does seem like a land transaction, but it's not listed as a lease in the language, and I'm just wondering what the difference between temporary occupancy and a land transaction temporary lease is in regards to this resolution.
We're under resolution number the
2021 151.
151. I do not believe this is a lease. I think it's just a 5-vote requirement. We've had other 4F matters before the board, and I think they've only required a 5-vote majority.
Council, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, excuse me. Mr. President, Commissioner Warren, yes, this deals with a 4F matter, resolution 2021-151 for temporary occupancy under 4F. And in all of our past decisions on 4F, I believe it's simply a majority vote. I do remember looking at these documents, and I don't think they would constitute a lease under the charter. So my opinion would be that it takes a majority or 5 votes to pass.
Thank you, Council.
We can hear the council.
Thank you, Commissioner Bourne. Commissioner Hassan, we'll note that council will need to make sure his mic's on. He's close to it for anytime he's speaking. I'll ask the secretary to take the roll, and then we'll go into open time.
Commissioner Severson.
No.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan. Commissioner Hassan.
No.
Commissioner French.
No.
Commissioners, please make sure to turn your cameras on. A few of them aren't coming on, it seems. Commissioner Forney.
Aye.
Commissioner Bourne.
Abstain.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
President Cogill.
Aye.
You have 5 ayes, 3 nays, 1 abstain.
That carries. I will now move us into open time, the time being just after 5:30. And we do have 2 individuals signed up to speak for open time. Open time is our opportunity to hear from the public. Commissioners will listen. We do not respond to public testimony. We ask that that speakers ensure that they can speak on any topic, but ensure that they do not speak on any pending litigation matters or use any discriminatory or harassing language. Our first speaker signed up this evening is Sean Gazowski. Is Sean on the line?
We do not have any callers that have called in so far tonight.
Okay.
Hey, I'm here. I'm here.
Sean.
Sean Conity.
All right, Sean, you are the second speaker, and seeing as no one else is here at the moment, I will give you 2 minutes to address the board. Go ahead.
Thank you so much, President Cogill, and hello, commissioners. For years, diverse people who visit Lake Hiawatha shake their heads at the condition of the lake. And they wonder, why hasn't anybody done anything about the pollution of Lake Hiawatha? The answer is, we are waiting for the park board. The city is also waiting for the park board. The watershed district is waiting for the park board. The MPCA is waiting for the park board. In 2017, the city of Minneapolis was granted an MS4 permit for the 920-acre pipe shed that is the North Pipe that dumps the litter of South Minneapolis into Lake Hiawatha. In their application, they promised to improve conditions for Lake Hiawatha. Conditions have not improved. The next permit application may not be approved because of this failure. Since then, literally tons of plastic and styrofoam have been added to the burden of Lake Hiawatha, which is home to 249 species of animals and is a key migratory stop on the Mississippi River Flyway. It's the responsibility of the park board to remove the trash from Lake Hiawatha. That's why we support and we need the trash pickup amendment that hopefully will be added to the plan on April 7th. And this is a matter of environmental justice. If you care about Hiawatha Golf Course and to want to preserve it for future generations, it needs to become resilient to the changing climate. And therefore, I would urge you to support the plan. I would also encourage commissioners to continue to communicate with their constituents. Some of the commissioners, we've had a difficult time getting through or getting any response or have any kind of conversation. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Sean.
Sean Gaszewski is here now.
Sounds good. Thank you, Sean. You have 2 minutes to address the board. You may go ahead.
Hello, Sean Gaszewski, a volunteer master water steward in the Corcoran neighborhood, 3132 22nd Avenue South, Minneapolis 55407. And as a volunteer with Friends of Lake Hiawatha, we are very grateful for the work of Vice President Vita to work on an amendment to the Hiawatha Master Plan that could help bring approval for the plan in April of, especially related to things on having a food venue that could be African American run and expanding the leadership in the golf management for African Americans. I'm looking forward to bringing my daughter out to golf, both on the 18-hole and on the 9-hole golf course. I'm also an avid cross-country skier, and there are so many. It's just amazing to see how many cross-country skiers, many different ages, grade school, middle school, that are wanting to ski at the golf course. So the snowmaking options for the master plan are great for their point of view, and so much more interested in wildlife and nature that having more habitat restoration would be really supportive. When we met just about a week ago with Michael Schroeder and with Stephanie Johnson, who's the stormwater engineer for the city of Minneapolis, the city of Minneapolis and the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District cannot make any improvements to the stormwater infrastructure that flows into Lake Hiawatha until this master plan is approved. So, they already have it in their capital plans to invest in fixing the North Pipe and dealing with the trash problem in Lake Hiawatha. But because the golf course is, the golf course property is downhill from between the lake and the pipe shed, it's needed to be approved in April so we can move ahead. So thanks again.
Thank you, Sean. That concludes our speakers signed up for open time this evening. I will close open time and turn it back over to Planning Committee Chair Meyer for our next item.
Move Resolution 2021-152, a resolution approving creation of a parkland development and easement agreement with Bryn Mawr Development LLC and Swervo Development Corporation and the City of Minneapolis for application of the private land maintained for public use parkland dedication option to the Worth on the Woods proposed at 2800 Wayzata Boulevard.
Second.
The resolution has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion from commissioners? Commissioner Bourne.
Thank you, President Cogill. I guess I'd like just an abbreviated presentation and just kind of walking through an aerial map of the trail connections and then just a reminder of the dollar amount that we're talking for a waiver of the for a potential fee waiver.
Thank you, Assistant Superintendent Schroeder. Go ahead.
President Cogill and Commissioner Bourne, I will be glad to do that. Can the Deputy Superintendent or Secretary bring up the presentation? So I'll go through this fairly quick. If you can skip to the second slide, you can see the location of the project is centered around, if you go to the next slide, please, is centered around a building that used to house, I believe, Northwestern Bell, some kind of operations center. And it's just on the north side of 394 and on the southeast corner of Theodore Worth Regional Park. The site, the building that's shown there today would remain. There would be 2 additional buildings built on the west side. And the trail that's proposed would be on the boundary between the development site and Anwanton School. And if we go to the next slide, we just go through this fairly quickly. So the project includes 100 units of affordable senior housing in a 6-story building and 100 units of market rate senior housing and 150 non-senior, just open market rate units. So the total parkland dedication is about $414,000 based on the 250 units of market rate housing. The limitation on the private land maintained for public use is that only 75% of the value can be directed to that. 25% has to remain in cash. There was a question that was asked earlier, so the last bullet point on this page just reminds commissioners that the project is no longer asking for stormwater management to occur on parkland. They had been here some time ago and had been asking for that. If you can go to the next slide, please. So here's a picture of the development project. You can see the kind of upside down U-shaped building. That's the existing building that would remain. That's the one that they're planning on turning into 150 market rate apartments. You can see the two 6-story buildings on the westerly portion of the site. And then the trail would run from the corner of basically Upton Avenue South on the east side of the site, across the northerly boundary, and meet up to crossing all the way through the park and ending at the northwest corner of the site, where the park board could create a trail connection into Theodore Wirth Park, connecting to a trail. Right now, along that side of the park, there are a number of what staff refer to as rogue trails. They're either trails that have been created by wildlife or possibly by people just trying to access the park in a less discriminate way than a trail. If we can have the next slide, please. So I'm not going to run through the parkland dedication process, but this was a request that was made by the developer, and they followed the proper procedures by requesting the land in lieu dedication. And because of support from the neighborhood that was expressed also in writing, staff is recommending that we move a little in that direction on parkland dedication. Next slide, please. So they've submitted all of the required materials, including an accounting of the value of the land in question and an accounting of the value of the improvements they're proposing to make. And importantly, the value of the improvements is larger than the value of the land, of the dollars that would be available in the 75% of the land dedication. Next slide, please. So this is just repeating some of the things I've already said. It's important that this trail would be built on property owned by the developer and maintained by the developer, and always remain publicly accessible through the easement that would be developed. Next slide, please. This is just a depiction of the value calculation. They've included the value of the land in an easement, and then the value of the trail improvements. They total $338,000. $311,000 would be the 75% threshold that they would have to meet. The remainder, that $103,687.50, would be payable in cash at the time that the permit is pulled by the developer. And I think if you just go to the last slide, it just brings up the site diagram again. So I'm just highlighted here where the parkland dedication proposal would happen.
What, Assistant Superintendent, I mean, the dollars seem to make sense to me, and I think we'd be hard pressed to find an alternative connection for, even if we had access to all the funding, I think we'd be hard pressed to find an alternative connection. Can you talk to me a little bit about, and it has to be maintained in perpetuity, what is our recourse if it's not, and what is their standard of care? Will they be using a pavement index, pavement condition index, and will be repaving at a certain point? Like I get calls all the time about trails around Bede-Makaska. Then we have certain thresholds that even when we meet it, we don't have the funds. As we start approving what will likely be more and more of these, if there's a giant pothole in the middle of the trail and they just don't want to fix it, what recourse do we have?
President Cogill and Commissioner Bourne, I'll answer that in part, but I may defer also to Council Rice. So this resolution would authorize to enter into the easement agreement, and those kinds of terms will be defined in the easement agreement. We are on a path where we're trying to get our trails, our bituminous trails, seal coated every 7 years, and then on the 28th year we would let it go. 30th year we would do a full repaving. So that's the standard that we're trying to reach. We would probably reflect that in an agreement with the property owner and developer. In terms of the recourse that we would have relative to them not completing that work, it would seem that we could perform the work and charge them for it through an assessment to their property. But I would defer that to Council Rice to make sure I'm not misspeaking on that.
Council Rice.
Mr. President. Yeah, Mr. President, did that answer your question, Commissioner Bourne? Mr. Schroeder's.
Yeah, I guess I'm looking for you to verify what he had just brought up a point about verifying whether or not we'd have the ability to make an assessment and do repairs if the owner did not.
I think what I would say, that's a good point, Mr. President, Commissioner Bourne. To be clear, Resolution 2021-152 directs the creation of a parkland dedication, development and easement agreement with the developer. It's my understanding, and Mr. Schroeder could confirm this, I think those would be terms, and I think the question you raise is something that we would work out as we negotiate and then develop the agreement and bring it forward. So I think that we can note that, and this would be, we've done several of these, I guess what I would say is that's probably a question when we bring back the agreement. Isn't that correct, Mr. Schroeder? We're planning on constructing this agreement. It would come back to the board for final approval?
Council Rice, I'm not sure we've done that on every single one, but we certainly could with this one, and we could clarify those more specific terms when we bring it back.
But if we vote tonight, if we vote in the affirmative tonight, the dedication fee is waived, and then weeks later, an easement agreement will come forward that we're being asked to approve. Am I understanding the order of operations?
President Cogill and Commissioner Bourne, that's correct. We would be moving on this fairly quickly, I believe, and they would not be starting construction. They could get a grading permit, an excavation permit. They can't get a building permit until all the pieces of the parkland dedication have been satisfied. So having the agreement in place would be a threshold for them gaining a construction permit for the buildings.
But having the, I guess what I'm concerned with, we approve this tonight. We approve this tonight, waiving the fee. Then staff goes to the negotiation table with the developer. They come back and say, you know, we don't really want to have the ability to be assessed to fix a pothole. Just take our word for it. That doesn't make it into the easement agreement that's going to come back to us. Like, I have no problem with the framework of this agreement, but I'd like to see the language of that easement agreement in writing concurrently with the passage of the waiver of the dedication fee. Because right now that's the only leverage that we have to make sure that there is a strong ironclad agreement that they will maintain this that they will maintain this pretty long stretch of trail. So if in an easement agreement they will agree to paying assessments if they don't fix it, I'm fine with that, but it feels like we just have a missing piece of information at this point, and I don't want a future board 20 years down the road to be having the same type of arguments that we currently have from agreements that were made 20 years ago that were kind of handshake promises or word of mouth promises. I'd like something very concrete in writing that says this is the standard to which the trail will be maintained. If it's not, here is the recourse that the Minneapolis Park Board has that the developer is agreeing to in exchange for this massive waiver of dedication fees. So I guess I'm personally not ready to vote yes tonight. If staff could come back with the language of that easement agreement with an assurance that the developer has already signed off on that and will agree to it, I'd be comfortable passing them both in a package. But I guess I'm not comfortable waiving the fee tonight without knowing exactly what that maintenance agreement will look like and what recourse we would have if they don't live up to it. Where I'll just remind the board, we've been going round and round and round and round in negotiations around tennis courts that were promised to be built by us, that were promised to be built for us by a private entity that we went into an agreement with years ago. And I think now 4 superintendents have been trying to finalize that, and it's been perpetually close to the finish line since I've been on the board. I just don't want to see. I don't want to. Patching potholes are hard enough, and I don't want to make patching potholes along this public stretch that much harder by having a unclear agreement 20 years down the road. So I guess I would ask my colleagues to not approve this tonight. Let's get the language of the easement and the maintenance standards in that easement, and let's pass them concurrently.
Thank you, Commissioner Bourne. Commissioner French.
Yeah, can I get just a kind of a breakdown on what we're calling market prices and below market prices? How do we come to that?
President Cogill and Commissioner French, that's a determination of the city of Minneapolis and not the park board.
Do we know how they made that determination? Is there a breakdown? Is there some type of chart or anything like that?
President Cogill, Commissioner French, maybe our planning commission representative might have more insights on this, but typically it's the affordability threshold is marked against the adjusted median income of the area where the project is being built.
Do we have a number on that?
I do not. It's a determination of the city of Minneapolis.
Commissioner French, I don't have an answer on specifically what the affordability is here, but the AMI standard for what would constitute the high end of affordability is 80% of the area median income. I don't know if these are deeply affordable. I honestly can't recall, and I think the project did come before the Planning Commission when I was on the Planning Commission, but it has changed substantially. So I wouldn't want to speak to where this is on the affordability threshold, but suffice to say, it would have to be at least 80% of AMI, if not lower.
My big concern is that we're the Doves are touting this as a chance to have some below market units, and we don't know how much those units are. We don't know how much that's going to cost, and I just want to know what the cost is, the real world cost, and that percentages, because that's what regular folks have to deal with. What does it cost? And I would really like to know a number, a breakdown of how much these units will be costing, and to really gauge, in my own eyes, if it's affordable or not. Thank you. I guess someone has that answer.
Thank you, Commissioner French. On that note, I would say, you can look up online what 80% or 60 or 30 corresponds to in a monthly rent for the city of Minneapolis. I don't have that off the top of my head or at my fingertips right now, but that might be one way to check it out. I'll say on this item, I guess what I would ask Assistant Superintendent Schroeder is whether or not he'd be confident that the developer of this half affordable project would go along with a additional stipulations on trail maintenance standard, and if that conversation has happened beyond just a commitment to maintain the trail in perpetuity.
President Koga, we did have maintenance standards that were associated with the last project that a part of this development team brought forward, and they were amenable to that. Knowing the position of the board, if they're not amenable to it, then we would not proceed with the parkland, with this particular option under the parkland development, parkland dedication ordinance. We would fall back to one of the other two methods, and it would probably be the cash contribution and no trail dedicated.
President Cogill, I would move to table resolution 2021-152.
Second.
has moved to table the resolution. It has been seconded. I'll ask the secretary to take the roll on tabling the resolution.
Commissioner Severson.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich. Commissioner Musich.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Commissioner Hassan.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Commissioner Forney.
No.
Commissioner Bourne.
Aye.
Vice President Vita.
No.
President Cogill.
Aye.
You have 7 ayes, 2 nays.
That resolution for the
Secretary Ringgold, I'm not positive the roll was correct there. I thought I heard 3. Or did President Cogill vote yay or nay?
The roll as stated by the secretary is correct.
Okay.
That concludes our business for the regular meeting of the board. We'll move into petitions and communications. I will go through each commissioner. Commissioner Bourne.
I will pass.
Commissioner Musich.
Pass.
Commissioner Hassan.
Pass.
Commissioner Severson.
Can you hear me? I'm having a little technical difficulty. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Commissioner
All right.
Severson.
I'm stuck in safe driving mode, even though I'm not driving. So please forgive me. That I hope you can see me. If you can, I'll try to figure it out. 2 things I wanted to talk about this evening. I want to say that I'm extremely disappointed in our park board's actions against our Code 8 employees. If commissioners have not heard, our Code 8 employees have lost all their sick time that they rightfully earned working in our parks. They lost it because they had 3 options because of COVID. One of them was to resign from working from the park board when the pandemic started. I believe another option was to take unemployment. I think the third option was to stay employed and hopefully they would have a job when the pandemic ended. Because 90 days passed, I believe that we let go of all of our employees without notice even. They were asked to turn in their badges and their keys and found out they wouldn't get their safe and sick time that they rightfully earned. This is why unions are so important to me, because we wouldn't be doing this to union staff. I hope commissioners are listening, and I hope that you folks start asking questions on why this happened, because in my earnest opinion, this is not a good thing. This is not how we should treat employees, particularly in the midst of a pandemic. Stealing their benefits is not okay. I do want to leave on a good note. I would like a response from Al before this meeting ends about this particular issue, but leaving on a good note, I just want to thank Congresswoman Ilhan Omar and her dedication and commitment to our 5th CD, particularly North Minneapolis. She continues to show up, she continues to be passionate, and she continues to fight for our community. So I just wanted to say thank you to Congresswoman Ilhan Omar this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Severson. Commissioner Meyer. Commissioner Meyer.
Pass.
Commissioner French.
Thank you, President Cargo. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I have two issues that I really want to address and talk about today. One is the removal of the vote for the golf course off the agenda today. I'm concerned that we're going to push this back further and further when people aren't watching, and we're going to make a vote when people aren't watching and people aren't going to be held accountable. We told people that we're going to try to be speedy with our decision, and it seems like we're just, what are we doing? So we need to get that back on the agenda. We need to start having some robust conversations that were had before, and come to a decision. The second thing I wanted to talk about was our Code 8 employees. As most of you know, I was served as a Code 8 for over 15 years, off and on in Minneapolis Park System. Our Code 8 employees are the ones who have the day-to-day contact with our kids. They're the ones who knows when the kids are having a bad day. They're the ones who knows what kids isn't safe to go home. They're the ones who care about our kids. They're the folks who come from the community. They spend most of their times in the parks and at the headquarters. Those are the folks who need to be taken care of. Our Code 8 employees are so valuable to this system, I can't even articulate it. They're the closest thing we have to teachers in our system. And we got to figure out a better way to take care of those folks. I want to echo Commissioner Severson's words when he says, we wouldn't do this if this was an organized group of workers. There's no way we would do this if this was an organized group of workers. And I'm calling on other commissioners to figure out a way, either we need to pass a resolution or something to allow our Code 8s to be able to organize. And we not interfere with that, because I think the treatment that's going on with our Code 8s right now is, for whatever the reason, whether it be financial, whatever, or just the way we do business, we can do better than what we're doing right now. There's a lot of folks. We got to do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner French. Commissioner Horney.
Pass.
Vice President Vita.
Pass.
Thank you, Vice President. I want to say a couple of things. I want to thank staff for implementing a lot of the programs quite swiftly that are engaging our young people, especially in North Minneapolis and across the city. Even during COVID, we're finding creative ways to get people engaged, and I appreciate seeing how we're showing that work. We're putting it out there and gathering interest and gathering enthusiasm around these programs. I very much hope that the innovation that we are seeing right now can be built upon moving into the summer, as we're hopefully transitioning into opening up more programs and opening up more events, and ideally, as swiftly as possible, opening up our recreation centers to capacity. I also want to say that the concerns that were brought up by Commissioner Severs and Commissioner French, I am dedicated to working with them to figure out what's going on and to take the actions necessary to protect our employees, especially our frontline staff. Finally, I just want to thank commissioners for sitting through our meeting this evening on a beautiful evening. And with that, I will.
I have inquiry, President Cogill, before we close out.
Yes, Commissioner Bourne.
Thank you, President Cogill. This is to staff, but just on resolution 20.
Is the inquiry to the board?
It's a point of inquiry. You will probably want to refer it to staff, but it's a procedural question on a motion that we had just passed. Resolution 2021-155 is revising a wage freeze for all of our non-represented employees. I had thought that some of the issues that Commissioner Severson and French had brought up were addressed in Resolution 2021-155. It sounds like that may not be the case in terms of safe and sick time, and I guess I'd like a little bit. I think there would be an opportunity under that point of inquiry for staff to respond right now to the questions that were brought up, if in fact that is the case. It's too big of a topic to just leave on the table and say, let's talk about it later. If we have a large subset of our employees that just lost a lot of their sick and safe time in the middle of a pandemic, I guess I'd like to know why, and if that's something that the board needs to take immediate action on. I thought it was taken under 2021-155.
Thank you, Commissioner Bourne. I will ask staff to provide a quick update to Commissioner Bourne's question.
Thank you, President Cogill.
Thank you, President Cogill, commissioners. Assistant Superintendent Cox, I know we had a conversation around this. Do you want to give a quick update on where we are, or even Deputy Superintendent Ringgold, to give context quickly around not only the resolution, but again, the questions that's been asked specifically by Commissioner French and Commissioner Severson?
Superintendent Bangura, I'll kind of start it and then hand it over to Deputy Superintendent. So as it relates to separating temporarily from provisional staff, we are following guidelines that are handed to us by the City of Minneapolis. In order for us to maintain provisional staff on our books, they have to be actively working within the last 60 to 90 days. Please don't quote me on the number, but it's either 60 to 90 days. If they are not, then the city requires us to take them off our books. That does not mean that we won't welcome them back when there is work for them to do, but for reasons beyond me, I don't know them because I'm not HR, but the city does not allow people to be on the books indefinitely. Deputy, would you like to add something additional?
President Cogill, Commissioner Bourne, Superintendent Bangura, I would need to look further into the Code 8. I believe what Assistant Superintendent Cox has stated is absolutely correct, but I don't know the other circumstances that are coming up with Code 8s at the moment. Code 8 is a provisional employee. Provisional employees are not covered under 2021-155. That resolution is specifically focused on certified employees that are covered under civil service rules and are our part-time and full-time certified employees.
So, Deputy Superintendent,
Commissioner Bourne, is this still part of?
It's still part of the point of inquiry, President Cogill. So the resolution that we passed, 2021-155. So then there was also a wage freeze in place for non-regular employees. I'm sorry, I don't remember I don't remember their Code 8s in my mind. But so the resolution that we passed, those folks were still under a wage freeze that the board has not addressed yet. And then it also sounds like a lot of them may have been let go and had a bank of sick and safe time. Am I understanding that correct in context to Resolution 2021-155 and my point of inquiry?
President Cogill, Commissioner Bourne, the original resolution passed by the board did not impact wages of provisional employees. The original resolution approved by the board froze wages for certified non-represented employees and appointed employees. So that wasn't in reference to wages regarding provisional employees. So this resolution 2021-155 does not pertain to provisional employees either.
Okay. That is helpful. So I think the solution that I would need to answer my questions that are under Resolution 2021-155 would be a new resolution reinstating the bank of sick and safe time hours that may have been lost by folks that procedurally fell off the payroll because they weren't there for 60 or 90 days. That would be pretty close to the correct course of action if that's not covered under Resolution 2021-155, Deputy Superintendent.
President Cogill, Commissioner Bourne, again, I have not looked far enough into at this point the questions that have come up tonight regarding provisional employees. I can tell you that something regarding provisional employees would have to be a separate resolution. I don't know at this moment what that would be.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Superintendent. I would like to make a motion to suspend the rules for the purposes of adding a resolution to tonight's agenda, directing the president of the board to add this item as an agenda item at our next scheduled meeting.
Commissioner Bourne, I will add it. Okay.
And I'd like to speak. I think I heard a motion and a second.
Commissioner Bourne, I would just ask if I can say that I will add it to the agenda, working with staff for the next meeting. And
President Cogill, I think there was a motion and a second.
I have a parliamentary inquiry.
Go ahead, Commissioner Musich.
Thank you, President Cogill. Parliamentarian Rice, is a motion at this time to suspend the rules in order?
Mr. President, Commissioner Musich, last I recall, Commissioner Bourne was recognized for a point of order or a point of inquiry. I don't believe that he was recognized to make any sort of other motion. I think at this point, if a member is recognized to make a motion to suspend the rules, that's probably already in order, but I don't think that Commissioner Bourne's been recognized to do that at this point in the proceeding.
Just for clarification, I closed out the point of order with the last period in my sentence in an inquiry about the resolution.
Commissioner Bourne,
I then stated a motion that received a second. So there is a motion on the floor to suspend the rules.
There's, Mr. President, Commissioner Bourne, you cannot do that. You are recognized at a point of inquiry or a point of information. You are not recognized to make any other motion by the chair.
So if somebody wants to make a motion to table an item, do they have to say, I would like to be recognized?
Commissioner Bourne, I'll ask you to take your questions of parliamentary procedure offline with Council Rice, and I will adjourn the regular meeting of the park.
Okay, my concern, President Cogill,
I'd like to convene the Administration and Finance Committee.
That you did not, and so now
would the Secretary please call the roll of the Administration and Finance Committee?
I do have some concerns over that, and I think they're really valid.
Commissioner Bourne, we can talk afterwards.
I'd be happy to talk afterwards. I'd like to just get that on the record as to why I was trying to move that forward, because last week you...
Once again, the Administration and Finance Committee has been called to order. Would the Secretary please call the roll?
Talk to you about that offline.
Vice President Vita.
Present.
Commissioner Musich.
Present.
Commissioner French.
Here.
Vice Chair Hassan.
Present.
Chair Forney.
Here.
You have a quorum.
I'll take a motion to approve the agenda of March 17th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
The Secretary please call the roll.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Vice Chair Hassan.
Aye.
Chair Forney.
Aye.
You have 5 ayes.
I'll take a motion to approve the minutes of Wednesday, January 20th, 2021, and Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021.
So moved.
Will the secretary please call the roll?
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Vice Chair Hassan.
Aye.
Chair Forney.
Aye.
You have 5 ayes.
We have one action item, very exciting, a resolution 2021-157, a resolution authorizing the execution of a purchase agreement with BC Properties LLC for acquisition of a park site in North Loop, neighborhood of Minneapolis, Minnesota for $567, including base park improvements. Can I have a motion to move that?
So moved.
Great. I am very excited about this and would love to have a presentation by Director Arvidsson, if he is around.
Thank you, Chair Forney. I am here. I'll give Secretary Ringgold a moment to bring up the presentation, but yes, I personally feel this is a pretty exciting day, so I'm looking forward to giving this presentation. I'll get through it quickly because I know we have a 6:30 time certain, and then you can decide how you proceed from there. So the action before you today would consider the acquisition of a park site in the North Loop neighborhood of Minneapolis. You can go directly to the next slide. So this would be a new 25,000 square foot or about a half an acre park site in a neighborhood that has never had a neighborhood park. This park was envisioned in the downtown service area master plan. It is also one of 5 targeted areas in our city that is identified in the Trust for Public Lands Park Score Index as lacking park service. The purchase price, uniquely, includes base park improvements to create usable green space this summer. The developer is actually going to construct basic park improvements before they sell the property to us so that this can be ready to go on day 1. There are 2 agreements before you today in one resolution, a purchase agreement and also an easement agreement. The developer wants to retain a portion of the site that they need for their ongoing building maintenance. And so that will be encumbered onto the property. Next slide, please. So this is a snapshot from the Trust for Public Lands Park Score Index that shows the mapping around the North Loop neighborhood. These bright red areas are the 2% of the population of our city that does not have neighborhood park service within a quarter mile. And you'll note that that red area is actually going to sit right in the location where this park is going to be acquired. Next slide, please. So this is also envisioned in the downtown service area master plan, which called for the 8th Avenue Streamscape facility, which passed through the North Loop, linking this park site with the river. As you all well know, the River Loop connection is actually completed and constructed. The tractor work and the Nordic sites are well underway. We have agreements on those and fundraising is happening. And you can see in red there, the North Loop Park space would be the southern anchor of the 8th Avenue Streamscape for now. Next slide, please. This is what the site looks like today, or almost. Actually, that big central parking lot there, a portion of that has now been built on by the developer BC Properties, Schaefer Richardson affiliated company. And then it's kind of the middle area there that would be constructed with parkland. Next slide, please. This is the drawing from the downtown service area master plan, showing that proposed mixed-use residential building, as I just mentioned, and then showing that 25,000 square foot park site there in the middle of the block. Next slide, please. So a couple of key facts on this acquisition that's before you today. This is a fee title acquisition. This is not about an easement. It's not private land for public use. This site will be fully owned and operated by the park board, and it would become parkland forever. So fee title acquisition. The cost breakdown here is that this is an $80 a square foot purchase for 25, slightly more than 25,000 square feet. $80 a square foot is below the market rate for land in the North Loop right now. There will also be an approximately $90,000 credit back for the maintenance easement that I mentioned earlier. So essentially the park board will not be paying for the land under that maintenance easement because there will be certain restrictions on what we're able to build on that easement. In addition, included in the purchase price will be a payment to the developer of about $190,000 for base park improvements to be constructed by the developer prior to the sale of the property. The base park improvements include pavement, demolition, and soil enhancement on the entire site, and then turf grass and irrigation. This isn't a whole lot, but at least gets us a green space where people can throw out a blanket or throw a Frisbee in the North Loop on day one. We could also plant some trees in there to get some shade going and do a variety of things. I do want to note that this $190,000, based on our estimates internally through Cliff Swenson's group, would be far cheaper than we could do this work through a competitive bid process. So because the developer is already on site doing the construction work, this is a very fair price for us to get base park improvements. Next slide, please. The funding for this project comes almost exclusively from park dedication funds. The board in 2 different CIPs has already dedicated about $1.9 million to this project. There is a $175,000 gap. And I think we're continuing to have some internal discussions on how to close that gap. Some options here would be to use an acquisition fund when it repopulates, an internal loan against future park dedication funds, which are sure to acquire in this neighborhood. We could also look at external financing, basically a small mortgage, or even private philanthropy. So prior to the closing, we would have this gap solved. Next slide. Commissioner Forney, that's all I have for you tonight, and you can decide how you need to proceed with regard to the time certain event coming up. And I'll stand to take questions whenever you want. And in addition, Katie Anthony from Schaefer Richardson, the developer in the area, is also here to answer technical questions if you have any about the developments in the area.
Okay, we have a few minutes. Commissioner Musich.
Thank you, Chair Forney. I appreciate being given the opportunity to speak. So excited to see this happening. As someone that worked downtown for 15 years, the lack of green spaces for people to be in was really glaring, especially now that there's so much housing going in and just a lot more people there. Very excited to see this move forward. When I would show up at the open houses and chat with people, the vision for this section of the city is really exciting to just see that we're creating a park space that's providing more than just park for people. It's like a big, beautiful spot to hang and meet your neighbors and build community. So thank you for making this happen. It's exciting to see. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We've got 2 more minutes. Vice President Vita.
Thank you, Chair Forney. I too just wanted to say how wonderful this is. This is a part of our city that doesn't have as many parks as others. And as an at-large commissioner, I've always had folks reaching out to me about parks in this area. So thank you all so much. This is exciting, and I'm happy to see that we're moving forward on this project.
I'm going to recess the committee because I also would like to make some comments. So we are recessed for the moment.
All right. The time being 6:29, I will call to order the Planning Committee. Secretary, please call the roll.
Vice President Vita.
Present.
Commissioner Musich.
Present.
Commissioner French.
Here.
Vice Chair Forney.
Here.
Chair Meyer.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Moved.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Vice Chair Forney. Vice Chair Forney.
Aye.
Chair Meyer.
Aye.
You have 5 ayes.
That carries. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021?
So moved.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Vice Chair Forney.
Aye. Aye.
Chair Meyer.
Aye.
Thank you both. You have 5 ayes.
That carries. Is there a motion for Resolution 2021-158?
So moved.
So moved.
All right. This is for approving the concept plan for Dickman Park improvements. And Ms. Christensen, can you please give us a presentation on this?
I think actually Lewis Peters is here, the project manager, who will be giving the presentation, and I'm here if there's any questions. Thanks.
Great.
Thanks for the introduction, Carrie. I think it's just up. Dickman Multi-Sport Court.
Oh,
right there. Yep.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No problem. Yeah, I'll just quickly run through the concept we've come up with, staff have come up with. Next slide, please. So the slide in front of you is the concept pulled directly from the East of the River Master Plan. This concept that's up for consideration is focused entirely on the western half of the project, so many of these items are not included in the concept that is up for approval. The 3 main items that we pulled from the master plan for the concept that's up for approval is on the north end, the addition of a new loading zone, additional plots in the urban agriculture zone, and then the multi-sport courts. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the project scope is focused on the multi-sport courts, which after community input, the final concept was to include a half-court basketball court and additionally 2 pickleball courts, which will be fenced in. There are some updates in the concept to the existing pathways to improve ADA access, and then expanding on the urban ag zone. None of the improvements in this concept are over near the pool or playground. It's focused entirely on the western half of the park. Next slide, please. Project timeline, pending approval today, we hope to have construction documents out late April, early May, with construction starting late June, early July, hoping to have substantial completion fall 2021. Our project budget at this time, there's $170,000 allocated from the CIP, and the neighborhood also has up to $334,000 in park dedication fees to pull on if bids come in above that $170K. Next slide, please. So for engagement, this was at the consult level, being that we were pulling off of the community engagement that came from the East of the River Master Plan. Kind of the 3 main things that were done over the past couple months. A virtual open house was held with community groups and stakeholders. There was a focus group held specifically focused on the urban ag portion of the project. Online surveys were held, and then there was a PAC, a project advisory committee, held to get input from internal staff to address their concerns. Next slide, please. This slide is just a collection of kind of all of the input we got through the different venues that we reached out to the community. I'm not going to go through each bullet point. As you can see, there's several, but we just thought it'd be good to include this to kind of show the many ideas that we got from the community. Next slide, please. And this here is the final concept that we came up with. So on the right side is kind of a list of the items. I'll just kind of go through them with a quick explanation. At the top on the north end, the first bullet point up at the top is the loading and drop-off zone. That will improve access for maintenance as well as provide access for those using the urban ag zone for bringing in compost and material, as well as for in the future, if this turns into a community kitchen, it would also be used for that. We're adding compost bins. We are expanding the urban ag zone to beyond 30 plots, adding tool benches, redoing the walkway, as I said, to improve ADA, adding the multi-sport court, which was not clearly defined, but after community input, we heard pretty strong support for keeping the existing half basketball court, so that will be demoed and repaved, but installed generally in the same area, slightly to the south. And then the addition of 2 new pickleball courts, which will be fenced in. And that is essentially, well, as well as adding a water fountain and spigot. Currently, they pull off of the on-site building for the watering for the urban ag zone, and we will now be moving that closer so they don't have to cross the path. Anything else to add, Carrie?
I think that was it.
All right, next slide, please. Yeah, and then that's it if there's any questions.
Thank you, Lewis and Carrie. Do commissioners have any questions before we move on to the public hearing on this item? I am not seeing any. So we have 3 people who signed up to call in, and I will give each of them up to 2 minutes each. Our first speaker is Paul Jablonski. Is Paul on the line?
We do have Paul on the line.
Okay, Paul, and I'll just remind all the speakers, if you're listening to the live cast, there is a delay on that. So we ask you to turn that off first before you begin speaking. Then you can give your name, address, and you have 2 minutes.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Is it my turn?
Are you Paul?
Yes.
Then it is your turn.
Okay, thank you so much. Paul Jablonski. I live 1 house away from Dickman Park at 609 Main Street Northeast. And I've been here for over 20 plus years, and I've seen how the park is used. I am very concerned about the loss of unprogrammed open space that people program themselves, whether it's small kids throwing football around, playing soccer, or small families getting together on a Saturday afternoon to play baseball, toss a frisbee, or just people with neighborhood dogs that play with the dog. I like the concept of all the components. I just don't like where they are placed. I'm a little concerned about the garden area usage that is just being used by a small number of people. I think that could be pushed out to an area that is next door between the alley and the sidewalk there. You'd have to take a couple of evergreens down, but push that out, leave the basketball court where it is. There are very different groups of people who use the basketball court versus the pickleball court. The basketball court is generally a much younger crowd, boisterous. Their friends are on the side talking. On occasion, there's loud music coming from their cars that are parked right there. The pickleball, I think, is going to be used by a much more mature crowd, and I think they're the kind that like a little bit more quiet. So I'm really concerned about mixing the 2 crowds that close together. I think it would be better if you move the pickleball court to the underutilized area where the arbor trellis is and some of the vegetation there. That area seems to be very low usage. When the foliage is there, it kind of feels a little unsecure. But I would also like to see more grills around the pool area. That's where families tend to congregate, with the kids enjoying the pool or the little playground there. We definitely need more picnic tables, a couple more grills, and a couple more benches along the sidewalks in that area. But whatever you could do to try and keep as much of the open area would be greatly appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Jablonski. Next, we have David Bloomquist. Is David on the line?
David is on the line.
Great. David, tell us your name and address, and you have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is David Bloomquist. I am at 224 3rd Avenue Northeast. I am on the St. Anthony West Neighborhood Organization and was chair of the Riverfront Parks Committee when we did the public engagement around the use of our park dedication fees. And through that process, which Carrie was a great partner on that as well, really did align around, wanting to have a pickleball court. In parallel, I know that the East of the River committee was also looking at, what to include in the master plan for Dickman Park, and also kind of settled on the multi-sport court. And so I think, what's before you today is in alignment with what we had been hearing from the neighborhood, what we had requested the park board to consider. So I think really, overall in favor of the final design. I think it was really important to us as a neighborhood and including all the neighbors that we connected with to keep the basketball court in addition to adding the pickleball court. So I'm glad this final design reflects that desire for the neighborhood. But I just wanted to say thank you for your engagement and looking forward to these park improvements. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Next, we have Jennifer Jerry. Is Jennifer on the line?
We do not have Jennifer on the line.
All right. That was everyone who signed up to call in person. Do we have anyone else who is on the line?
We do not have anyone else on the line.
All right. And then we do have 2 additional write-ins from Dan Kuzlik and Tatiana Allen. Secretary Ringgold, can you read those 2 written comments, please?
Looking over the final plan for the Dickman Park improvements, I did not see the current wading pool highlighted. Can I assume that there will be no changes to that area and that the wading pool will remain? It is heavily used when filled and open. Also, the benches and pergolas were also not highlighted. Can I also assume those remain, as again, they are frequently used? My suggestions for any additions would be relatively minor. I definitely feel that the park could use at least 1, if not 2, more cooking grills. There currently is only 1 grill for the entire park, and many families enjoy cookouts in the park. An extra picnic table or 2 would be welcome. This is from Dan Kuzlik. I got the email regarding the Dickman Park plans, and I'm concerned there was no mention of the existing perennial gardens. They are beautiful, and I go to Dickman often to visit the gardens, specifically the irises. What will happen to the perennial plants? Will you move them to another park? This is from Tatiana Allen.
Thank you, Secretary Ringgold. So I'd like to ask staff to answer some of the questions that were brought up in the hearing. Lewis and Carrie, can you answer Tatiana's question about the iris gardens and about the wading pool and grills and the location of the garden?
Yes. So the garden will not. We are not removing that from the park. I did forget to mention a couple of things that came up. One, we did hear a lot from the community that green space is highly used, as the caller stated, and very valued by the community. So we, as little as possible, are encroaching on that. There will be a few feet of that lost, but for the most part, that space is not being affected at all. That will remain as is. The pickleball courts are pushing the path into that space, like I said, a few feet, but for the most part, the feeling of that space will not change. That large green space at the center of the park is to remain. And then 2 other things that I forgot to mention. This project does add 1 grill and 2 benches. However, they're on the west end of the park, and most of the community input seems to indicate that the grilling and benches that they would like to see is on the eastern end of the park. And this project wasn't focused on that part of the park. So there is one additional grill and 2 additional benches being added. And did I forget to cover any of the questions?
The waiting pool.
Waiting pool. Yes, that's completely unaffected.
Okay. So would you recommend then as an amendment that the grills be moved to the opposite end?
Yes, we certainly could do that. That part of the park wasn't surveyed. So I'm at this time not real familiar with the best spot to locate those. But if direction from the board is that we look into seeing about adding grills on the eastern end of the park, that's definitely something.
Lewis, Chair Meyer, I agree. I think one option could be to add the grills adjacent to the pool area as an alternate. So depending on project funding, that we could have a grill in the urban ag area by the plaza, and the future, the building is meant in the master plan to be activated as part of the urban agriculture zone. So having a grill there feels like a really great fit from kind of a food access standpoint. And then having additional gathering spaces by the playground and pool for folks to barbecue and hang out in the, could be an alternate consideration. So because it's out of the project area, like Lewis said, it might mean like digging up and really disturbing in a totally different part of the park that was going to be untouched. So I might recommend that we take the path of an amendment that is an alternate. So as funding allows, we add an additional grill to that area. Otherwise, we can earmark it for a future improvement.
Thank you. So I will follow up with staff and with the neighborhood committee that has been guiding this to see if that's something that we might consider for the next board meeting. That was all the questions that I had. I'm really excited to see this happen, and grateful to everyone who submitted their comments to improve the park. Are there any other comments or questions from commissioners? I am not seeing any. So Secretary Ringgold, please call the roll.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Vice Chair Forney.
Aye.
Chair Meyer.
Aye.
You have 5 ayes.
That carries. And with the consent of Admin Chair Forney, I've been recommended to continue on with our agenda, and then we'll go back to admin after we conclude this committee. So with that, is there a motion for Resolution 159, a resolution approving of the interpretive signage agreement with the Mississippi Watershed Management Organization for installation and maintenance of interpretive signage at the Skate Plaza at Elliott Park?
So moved.
Is there any request for a presentation or any discussion on this item? Not seeing any. Secretary Ringgold, please call the roll.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Vice Chair Forney.
Aye.
Chair Meyer.
Aye.
You have 5 ayes.
That carries. Is there a motion for Resolution 2021-160, a resolution authorizing the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board staff to apply for grant funds through the 2021 Skate Park Grant Program for skate park improvements at Central Gym/Park, located at 3400 4th Avenue South, Minneapolis, Minnesota?
So moved.
Is there any request for a presentation or any discussion? I'm not seeing any. Secretary, please call the roll. Oh, excuse me. Commissioner Musich.
Thank you, Chair Meyer. Really excited that there's funding available for us to be applying for. really hope that we see this expand in future years so that we can build a lot more skate parks in Minnesota. Just wanted to say thank you to everyone who advocated to make this grant opportunity a possibility. We're excited to ask for money. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Music.
Chair Meyer, if I may just make one comment, please.
Please do.
I just want to thank City Escape for they're our partner with skate parks in Minneapolis, and they've done, they did the footwork here with the legislators to get this money passed through the bonding bill that was passed late last fall. So we're thankful for their work, and as Commissioner Musich says, we hope that this continues, because this type of funding really goes a long way, especially in our system, and will help us to complete more skate parks. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Swenson. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Secretary, please call the roll.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Vice Chair Forney.
Aye.
Chair Meyer.
Aye.
You have 5 ayes.
That carries. Is there a motion for Resolution 2021-161, a resolution approving installation of public art mural by artist Jandai Berry on the outdoor basketball court at Phelps Park, and approving a license and maintenance agreement for the artwork with Elevate Foundation?
So moved.
Thank you. Is there any request for a presentation or any discussion?
Yes, please. Presentation.
Great. Let's see. Colleen Odell, can you please give us a presentation on this item?
Yes, Chair Meyer, I would be happy to.
Sorry, Colleen, 1 second.
No problem. There we go. Chair Meyer and Commissioners, you have before you a public art proposal for a basketball court mural at Phelps Field Park and an accompanying license and maintenance agreement for it. And it would be located on this yellow circle here in the northwest corner of the park. Next slide. So the proposal is for local artist Jandai Berry to create and paint the mural, assisted with youth from the Boys and Girls Club, which is hosted or which lives inside the building at Phelps Park, and community members. And the theme that the group is going to focus on is to honor the positive spirit of the community. The proposal does include a new bench and lighting, as well as a community celebration once the mural is done, and future youth programming opportunities. Now, a partner in this is Project Backboard, who has done several such murals with local artists and community members around the country. And they do have certain materials they like to use, but they will work with our staff to determine which are best. Next slide, please. I did mention the sponsors, the Elevate Foundation, which is a local foundation. Our partners on this project are Project Backboard, as I mentioned, Minnesota Timberwolves and Lynx, Boys and Girls Club of the Twin Cities, 5x5 Public Art Consultants, which is owned and operated by Robin Robinson, and Ward 8 City Council Office with Vice President Andrea Jenkins. And this group, which I'll call the project team, has been meeting already for about a year just to discuss how to make this project come to fruition, and especially how to do it in the age of COVID. So they have been meeting and talking and actually doing some engagement for the last year, with the hope that we can do installation this spring, a celebration to follow when COVID restrictions allow it, and then additional programming that would happen after that. Next slide, please. This is the South Service Area Master Plan adopted in 2016 for Phelps Field Park. And this proposal is compatible with it. As you can see, the basketball remains in that northwest corner. This would be painted on top of the existing new court. As I mentioned, public engagement was done last summer, but the artists, now that they've been selected in the competitive process, will continue to engage youth as much as possible this year before the mural is painted. And per our public art policy, this project has been reviewed by staff of multiple departments as well as our executive team. And the license and maintenance agreement has been reviewed by legal counsel as to form. Next slide. I mentioned there was community engagement last summer. There was a rather creative set of events that the project team was able to participate in. The Central Area Neighborhood and Bryant Neighborhood organizations conducted Reimagine 38th Street Black Small Business and Flea Market events Saturdays in August through September. And we were able to have pop-up engagement activities there where we were masked, we had 6-foot social distancing, and we could ask people to share with us their thoughts of what they'd like to see on that. And we collected quite a few comments that we're going to be sharing with the artist to help formulate the design. We also had a survey, a couple of surveys, and Boys and Girls Club at Phelps have also done some outreach with youth. Next slide, please. So the artist that was selected is Jen Diaberry, and he is not only a fabulous artist who produced the things you see before you here, but also a live illustrator, concrete foreman. He calls himself an entrepreneur, which is a word I love. He did grow up in the Phelps Park area and knows it very well. He has background experience with architecture and with youth education, and stated in his application he wanted to create emotional equity, center justice, improve physical and psychological qualities of this space. And you can learn more about him at the link here. I did put some images from previous Project Backboard projects, as well as some other ideas. And Project Backboard's mission is to renovate public outdoor basketball courts to strengthen communities. Next slide, please. So as most all the new art projects that come before the park board, this is owned, maintained by the sponsor, which in this case is the Elevate Foundation. And that's what this 10-year license and maintenance agreement is for and what it does. It has the option to be renewed after 10 years. That might be a little flexible since we are working with asset management on a potential 6 to 10-year color code and crack sealing project on citywide courts. You'll see this timeline that we've got here. There are some other improvements that are happening in Phelps Field Park, so we're coordinating with project management on that to make sure that everything can go up with a hitch in this park this summer. Next slide, please. I did want to mention that we do have a couple of our partners, Bill Costello with Elevate Foundation and John Thomas with the Minnesota Timberwolves and Lynx, as well as artist Jen Diaberry. And if you are okay with it, Chair Meyer, they'd like to say a few words to the commissioners.
Yes, please.
Bill, are you there?
I'm here. Board members, thank you so much for your consideration for our proposal. My name is Bill Costello. I'm the president and founder of the Elevate Foundation. Our foundation seeks to uplift communities through the utilization of art and design. When George Floyd was killed last summer, inaction was not an option, and we saw an opportunity to work with a community that needed an uplift in the middle of all this civil strife. And so through the amazing guidance by Colleen, we were able to connect with other parties that were also interested, as it turned out, in doing similar things at Phelps Park. And so this mural, we're hoping can be that for the community and uplift. And we're also excited about our partnerships with both, 5x5, Ward 8, and Councilmember Jenkins has also been instrumental in helping us navigate this process of engaging with the parks and the city and also the neighborhood and that community. The Boys and Girls Club in terms of the youth engagement and help getting their input as to what we're designing and eventually going to implement. Project Backboard is who initially partnered with them, and you heard their mission statement. They have a great deal of experience not only around the country but around the world doing this, and so it's been part of their mission since 2015. So we have a very experienced partner that I'm really excited about. And then we were also able to partner with the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are bringing and leveraging their advocacy and knowledge of community outreach also to this project. At this time, I'd like to introduce John Thomas, who is from the neighborhood as well. He's Vice President of Basketball Development for the Minnesota Timberwolves and a new friend of mine, and I'm very excited to have him on the team. Go ahead, John.
Board members, thank you so much for your time, your energy, passion, and commitment. I am currently Vice President of Basketball Development for the Minnesota Timberwolves and Lynx. Most importantly, I am a South Side kid through and through. I've had a basketball journey that's taken me across the world, inclusive of Minneapolis Roosevelt, the University of Minnesota Golden Gophers, including 1 year of my 5 years in the NBA with the Timberwolves, and then ultimately overseas. It's my joy, privilege, and honor to be a part of my community again. And I have made wonderful friends, and this process for me has been awe-inspiring, to say the least. My commitment personally to the community continues to grow. And certainly when I think about young Black boys that aspire to potentially be like me, I recognize that it's incumbent upon me, and certainly not exclusively, because basketball is a sport that unites. I really look forward to being a part of this process. From an organizational perspective, we are continued to be committed to the community, and really just want to say thank you for your time. We are excited about moving this project forward and engaging at the depths of celebrating this project. And then the most important part is how do you create sustainability? And so for someone who grew up 3 blocks away and who used to run the hills at Phelps Park and McRae and Powderhorn and everything else, I will roll up my sleeves and you'll see my big, shining, smiling face there. So thank you so much for your time.
Jen Dyer, are you available?
I am, if I can get my microphone unmuted here.
We can hear you.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. I appreciate your time. My name is Jinde Berry, aka Jedi Maji. I'm a self-taught, multidisciplinary artist, born and raised on the south side of Minneapolis. I juxtaposed my time between the Phelps neighborhood and the Powderhorn neighborhood. Just like John Thomas, I grew up walking to Sabathani and Cup Foods, where George Floyd was run down. And so I know that site and that neighborhood extremely well. I also have an in-depth knowledge, or I should say empathy, to what kind of voice I would want to hear from a project like this, being from the neighborhood. And that's kind of inside knowledge that I hope to give back to the community. And as much as we can, really try to involve them. One of the things that I said in my selection process was that, trust is built on showing that you hear and you understand someone first before you can say, hey, we're doing this for you. I think including them in the process is a huge motivator for me. And so the design that I'm currently working on is really focused on that legacy, tying roots back to who we are. And I think this is an amazing time to really dive into who we are, that empowerment. So again, I'm really super excited to be a part of this project with Bill, with John, and with Robin. And I'm very excited to put down this mural for you.
Thanks so much, Jen Dyer. And that's our presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to everyone who's making this happen. Do we have any further discussion or questions from commissioners? Commissioner Vito.
Vice President Vito, Chair Meyer. I only said that because he hates to say it. Thank you all so very much. The president and I had been having conversations after the civil unrest about engaging young people and creating these very art projects that have been proposed tonight. So I'm super excited to see this happening in Phelps, and I hope that we will continue this and make this happen throughout our entire city. So thank you all so very much for your commitment to this project and your willingness to work with us at the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board on such an amazing opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Musich.
Thank you, Chair Meyer. I just wanted to take a brief moment to thank everyone from the project that's been involved in all the conversations that took the time to be here tonight to address the board. I just think it brings a lot to the conversations that we have as a deliberative body when we are able to hear from the folks that have been spending so much of their time and energy on moving community-driven projects like this forward. So thank you for sticking with us for the last 2 hours and 5 minutes to take the time to tell us about the work you're doing. It helps a lot to put in context just what we'll be voting on this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Musich. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Secretary Ringgold, please call the roll.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Vice Chair Forney.
Aye.
Chair Meyer.
Aye.
You have 5 ayes.
That carries and concludes our business. So if there is no objection, I will adjourn the Planning Committee.
Thank you. I'd like to reconvene the Administration and Finance Committee. And I was just going to comment about this acquisition. If Council Rice is still around, if he could possibly give a little update about where our park dedication fee might be in the legislature. I understand there's some questions there.
Yes, Madam Chair, there's
we can barely hear you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, Madam Chair, I reported in the last legislative report, there's 2 bills in the legislature that would have effect on our park dedication. One quite dramatic, would reduce the percentage of the dedication or limit park dedication fees to no more than 5% of value of the land, which would cut our numbers in half, because right now we're working on an ordinance at 10%. We'll be monitoring that legislation. The Builders Association throughout the state is arguing that government fees are a large driver in the cost of housing, and are seeking a number of limitations on local government's ability to shape development. So the city groups are opposing those measures, but we're gonna have to keep our eye on it. So we'll report further on that.
Great. If there's any, what should we say, activation we can do, getting out our constituents and whatever, please keep us advised on that. I believe it was something like a dozen years it took to put forward this dedication fee, and we're seeing evidence of how critical it has been in meeting the needs of our new communities, such as in North Loop, and how critical it is for us to continue to meet the needs, not just of where new developments are, but also where underserved has been. I believe that we have put into the system over 25 acres over the past 8 or 9 years. And they've all been in what has been aptly described as strategic acquisitions. And I'm just, yes, it's important for us to, meet the criteria of the Trust for Public Lands. But the reason why they have that criteria is because how essential it is to meet the needs of our community. So I am just so thrilled on this little itsy bitsy piece and how critical it is. And I want to personally thank Schaefer Richardson for being a part of this and being open to making this happen. So on that, if the Secretary would please call the roll.
Vice President Vita.
Aye.
Commissioner Musich.
Aye.
Commissioner French.
Aye.
Vice Chair Hassan.
Aye.
Chair Forney.
Aye.
You have 5 ayes.
Thank you. If there's no objections, then I will adjourn the committee. And please, everybody go out and have a green beer.
Good night,
Thank you. Have a good
everyone.
night.
Hey, happy St. Patty's Day.
Have a good night.
Good evening.